G'day, I'm Sean McKellar and this is my 2001 Ford AU Fairmont Ghia. Now I've owned this car for around 3 months now, and if you follow my YouTube channel you've probably already seen it in 2 of my previous videos. It's by far and away the cheapest car I've ever purchased, and when you take a look at it, a close look, it's easy to see why. Because this car has had a bit of a tough life, and when you consider that it's nearly 20 years old, the next question inevitably is, well, what's gone wrong with it? So in today's video, I'm going to cover exactly that. Now, I'd like to begin with a few obvious things I noticed immediately after picking up this car. And the first one was the stereo was actually displaying or error on the screen, and it wasn't actually letting me turn it on. Now, like most cars from this era, the factory stereos actually had a security system where you had to enter in a 4 or 6 digit code after you have disconnected and reconnected the battery. This was to discourage thieves from stealing the head unit and trying to on-sell it, because it effectively becomes useless if you don't have the code. But it was at this point that I became a little bit worried, because the gentleman selling it to me assured me that he had tried the code that was in the owner's manual several times and it still didn't work. So I was a little bit worried that perhaps there was a bigger problem with the stereo and maybe it had a proper error of some kind. Lucky for me, a quick Google search cleared things up. The error message is only displayed after the incorrect code has been entered too many times. And in order to clear the error and try again, you have to turn the key to accessories and leave it sitting for around 30 minutes. The unit will then clear the error and become ready to accept a code. After entering the code I found in the user manual, it worked first go. So job done. The second problem was actually a little bit more annoying, and that was the passenger side window would go down but not up again. The previous owner told me that he had tried to fix it, but he was ultimately unsuccessful. He did, however, mention that upon applying power directly to the window regulator, he was able to get it to go up again. So it was at this point that he simply disconnected the window regulator and left it so that someone couldn't accidentally wind it down and then not wind it up again. So naturally, I imagined the problem was either with the wiring or the switches. So what I did first was pull off the door trim, confirm the window regulator actually worked in both directions, and reconnected the wiring. A quick Google search suggested the window switches in AU Falcons are notorious for causing problems, but they're fairly simple to remove from the car and disassemble for cleaning. This actually solved the problem, so we're now 2 from 2 with $0 spent. And this of course led me to the next problem, which was with the Message Display Center, or MDC, which is in the middle of the dash. On most days you actually couldn't read a single thing from it. Luckily, Google came to the rescue again, helping me identify a ribbon cable which is glued to a circuit board, but begins to come unstuck with time. You can either have it re-glued by a professional, or you can go the dodgy way, which is stick a bunch of small fold-back clips on the edge of the board to help hold the ribbon cable down. This actually solved the problem, and only for the cost of the clips. So by this time I was on a roll and feeling fantastic, right up until the rear muffler started making some strange noises. Now, when I purchased this car, I knew the exhaust was a little bit rusty, but perhaps I didn't know the full extent of it. The muffler was so badly rusted out that it pretty much came off in my hands, effectively giving the car a time-delayed factory sports exhaust upgrade. To be honest, it sounded fantastic, and legally I probably could have left it that way because the exhaust was still exiting after the rear diff. But I actually wanted to do things properly, and so I purchased a new rear section of exhaust for $175, and it bolted straight up. The next thing I noticed was the car seemed to take forever to warm up on cold winter's mornings. And this of course was really annoying because you'd be sitting there driving, shivering while you waited for the engine to heat up and the heater box to start blowing warm air. Now this of course pointed to a faulty thermostat, so I went on eBay and for $25 I bought a new one, bolted it up, and the problem was fixed. Fast forwarding a couple of weeks, I was driving the car at night and I noticed a lot of the buttons on the dash were actually not backlit, making it impossible to perform even basic tasks like changing the temperature of the aircon and pretty much anything else. At first I thought it was a design oversight from Ford, as the buttons themselves look pretty much like they're black plastic with white symbols painted on. But a quick Google search revealed that they are of course supposed to be backlit. So I spent a few dollars on eBay purchasing the correct bulbs and swapped them out. And more recently, the car has started making a few taxi-like noises from the front end. And I've narrowed it down to worn sway bar bushes, so when you're going down an uneven road, you'll kind of hear them knocking around. This doesn't bother me too much, but if I wanted to fix it, it's simply a $20 part from eBay. So apart from the problems I've just mentioned, this cheap as chips car has essentially been perfect. It drives super smooth on the road, and the engine and gearbox seem to be as smooth as ever. Not at all what I expected. Now, of course, there are a few cosmetic issues with the car, such as minor panel scrapes and a saggy headliner. But to me, the headliner is a bit of a non-issue because the roofline in this car is so high and it still clears your head. If I want to fix it, it'll cost me roughly $200, so I could go and do that. And as for the panel damage, well, I have a couple of ideas. And so that's everything that's gone wrong with my 2001 Ford AU Fairmont Ghia. I think we can agree that the problems I've experienced have actually been quite minor. And when you factor in the cheap purchase price of this car, it's actually been quite satisfying to fix all those little niggly problems and bring it back a little bit closer to its former glory. So what have I got planned next for this car? Well, I've got a couple of ideas. So I'll be releasing some videos over the next couple of weeks. But I'm sad to say that eventually I'm going to have to move this car on to make way for a new project. What that car will be, I'm not really sure yet, but you can be guaranteed it's going to be another piece of Australian motoring history, just like the mighty AU Falcon. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.